Demonic angel. Today I have a a funny story, pretty much as funny, because I thought of a clever name for the title. The worst trip I've ever had, and people, ask me, "Oh, what do you think about psychedelics?" And I do advocate them for personal, spiritual, mind-expanding growth in certain situations. Um, you know, Obviously there's a whole range of, you can't take it with certain types of medicine. Can't be doing that all the time. For some people it's not appropriate. But I found it something that I use once in a while. But the funny thing, of course, for me is that I see things in such a non-mundane way anyway, that it really doesn't have quite as big of an effect on me as I've seen with other people. And I think that has to do with, that my perception is kind of always open, and after having real paranormal experiences and the ways that I'm always perceiving other people's emotion and dead people, so not too much really weirds me out in that sense. But the worst trip I've ever had has nothing to do with drugs, psychedelic drugs, or I'm going to be honest, growing up, I would have never thought that here in my 30s, I would be finding out family secrets about my biological grandfather. That's just my dog there, sorry. He likes to be by me. And that's, I guess that's the only way I could put it is, my parents are still together, so I just had this, as far as that traditional goes, that was, I thought, was there. But the secrets did not end there. Now, this isn't really so much of a secret, because this has to do with my paternal side of the family. And for whatever reason, my grandfather never talked to me about it. My grandfather, who's still alive, we talked about how his family, they came over from Europe to Canada and split up, and some parts of the family stayed and they worked on the railroads in the American Northwest, and then other parts of the family, they went to the South and Southwest United States and into the mining industry, so they split into two. And I knew about that, and I knew about how there's just centuries of miners in the family. And that's been a lot of fun to research, and so I knew all about that kind of stuff. And my grandfather, he's okay. He has the beginning stages of Alzheimer now, but it's honestly kind of hard to tell because he gets really good medical treatment. So, he's still able to. He loves telling stories. So that kind of runs in the family. But so I'm talking to him, this was maybe about 2 years ago, or even a little bit less. And what happened was, my father, it was this woman I thought was his cousin, and she's in their wedding photos, my parents' wedding photos, and she said, "I'm trying to contact your grandfather." She got a hold of me on social media, and I said, "Okay, yeah, no problem. I'll give you their phone number and talk to you." And because my cousin, her father died, and she wanted to get in touch with this side of the family again. So I thought, okay, she's my second cousin because she's my father's first cousin. So I said, okay, Papa, how am I related to this specific cousin? And you know, she wants to talk to you, and here's phone information, right? And he goes, oh, we're related to her because my grandfather, his great grandfather was a Mormon. And they came to, you know, the United States from Britain to be Mormons. And I did not know this. And if you guys, you know, pay attention to my channel at all, I guess my quick little side story is I grew up around Mormons, but I wasn't from where they are, and I thought I was not related to them. I couldn't, they were mean to me, they wouldn't accept me, I wasn't allowed to go to some of their homes, like as a little girl, and play with other kids because I wasn't Mormon. And you know, as I had a years of being angry as a teenager, and then I really just, honestly, part of my attraction to Satanism and Luciferianism, now there's nothing to do with anger. It's just that that's what I'm attracted to. But it was because of I wanted the darkness, because I didn't want to have anything to do with their God, or their this God who loves everybody, but you can't even you know, really be friends, and just the backstabbing and they just would not accept me. Like, the Mormon guys wouldn't date me publicly, or even just regular, like, friends. You could go hang out at their house, like, at night or something if their parents are away, but you can't, you know, if you're not, they call them non-members, people who aren't Mormon. And yeah, it was just part of a depression and a whole thing. And of course I just had to kind of reconcile, this is part of my hometown, it's part of me. The one place that I lived kind of most of my formative years. And I'm like, you have to be kidding me. You know, maybe I was meant to find out then, because I've done this kind of shadow work to recognize that this is still an experience I have to integrate into myself, and I don't hate anybody. I don't, you know, feed off of that. It's not my reasons for believing things. It's because I choose to do this. But I had to really do a lot of shadow work around that had lasting effects on me. But it was incredible to find that out. So he said, yeah, my great-grandfather came from Britain, and came to the East Coast of the United States, and came all the way over in a fucking wagon to be with a top Mormon guys. And my understanding is that he had like 5 wives, and God knows, hundreds. It's like, it's honestly just like, I'm like, really, how hillbilly is this in this way? Because you know, the Mormons, before the 1890s, they practiced polygamy, and it became illegal in the United States, and then they formed their own offshoots and communities, and so they still practiced it in some ways. Now the regular Mormon church today does not practice it, they encourage people to get married right away, have as many children as possible, because it builds stair steps to heaven. Each child you have is another child closer to God. And they have some, whatever. They're really strange, just like like a very cult kind of strange. So I'm just like, yeah, I can't believe that. So now I know that all these people, like, I'm blood related to them. So not only am I'm 1/8 Native American, but like even more distantly than that, I'm related to Mormons. And when my grandfather told me that, it was like the worst trip I've ever had. It was stunning. I didn't even, like, I had to go sit down. Because he never discussed this. All these years I've known him. So I've had about a year and a half to think about that. And I'm like, that whole part of, the thought that goes through my mind is, well, it's just when we see people who bother us and that's supposed to be some kind of aspect of our mind because we see things outside of ourselves. Here is something that it really was outside of myself, but when I did the work to kind of integrate it, and then I finally found that, and it's just really crazy. But one of the families the family I'm related to, they were actually the only nice people in town to me. The woman, yeah, she was the principal secretary, and she got me a job as a student teacher kind of aide, and it actually went towards community college credit at that time. And it was really nice of them to give me this kind of chance. And now I found out that we're family. And that's just really crazy. So, and then another thing is hey, they came over here with nothing, right? They came over here in a wagon, and there really wasn't a whole bunch out here in the other side. Like, it was just the East Coast that was settled in the United States, and then coming over here in this wagon, that just took, grit, determination, and pure survival types of attachments, because there was no guarantee of clean water sources, and that you would make it. So they believed that they belonged in this place. And the only other thing that I know for sure, of course, which is typical shadow stuff, typical unpleasantness, is that my grandfather, so it was his great grandfather, at some point there was alcoholism, and so my grandfather's father, he was an alcoholic, and his father was an alcoholic. So the whole Mormon thing didn't really work out too well because of alcoholism. And who knows, maybe the ancestors, they made this choice at whatever point to not be that way. But because Mormons aren't allowed to drink. But that's what I found out, and that's the worst trip I've ever had, because I grew up and they did not, like I wasn't allowed to be around. The only friends I kind of had were Mexican children, because we were the same religion, but still there was a lonely feeling for me because I didn't quite fit in there. And I never would have thought I'd find these kinds of things out, but I'm guessing maybe I'm done with family secrets for a while now. But in some ways I find it a lot of fun, and it's like another little piece of the puzzle for me. So that's my story. I'll see you guys later.